Here are my top 3 reasons for going the indie publishing route. I use the word independent and indie because saying that you're self-published to me indicates that you did it all by yourself. Anyone that has published something on their own knows that is never the case, or at least it should never be the case. From beta readers to editors to cover design to book layout to marketing, you can't do this alone and you shouldn't. There is a humongous indie publishing community out there that pretty much covers everything you need to publish your novel. I've had the privilege of being both traditionally published and independently published. So which do I prefer? Indie publishing 100%. Why? Because I'm a control freak? No, but I have to admit that is a part of the reason why I went down that path. The number one reason is you get to decide what story you want to tell. Let me give you a little backstory on my experience being published by a publishing company. I used to work as an assistant on the TV show Ghost Whisperer, and I was lucky enough to be asked to write the graphic novel for the TV show. So I recruited one of my best friends, Carrie, because she had a lot of experience with graphic novels and I had never written one. Working for a network and representing a TV show that was currently on the air, Carrie and I had to stick to certain rules. But even when we stuck rigidly to the Ghost Whisperer rules, we still had notes, and more notes, which is totally understandable. I mean, they have a brand they have to stick to. But I've learned this in most things, in the TV industry, in the movie industry, and in the book industry. Sometimes notes don't necessarily make things better, they just make things different. A lot of times, executive producers and publishers and editors, they want to put their stamp on it too. And it's understandable because if a publisher is publishing your book, it's their publishing company on the line. They want to have a voice in what is published. My father-in-law had 2 books published by Ace Putnam. And his 3rd book, they had a disagreement on what to do in the book. I'll let him tell you the whole story in a later video. But basically the bottom line is they ended up not publishing his book. So, which is understandable, it's their privilege, it's their right to do that. But then it meant that a really great story was shelved and no one was gonna read it. So that is why my father-in-law ended up going to indie publishing and he has never looked back. After I finished writing my first book, Riser, I did toy with the idea of getting it published traditionally. I met with managers and agents, but it never felt right to me. I felt like I was a tiny cog in a ginormous machine. And if I was gonna be a tiny cog, I wanted to tell the story my way. So I made the decision I was gonna go indie. Reason number 2, there really aren't that many advantages anymore to traditional publishing. Marketing machine? Not really. They did nothing for my father-in-law, and I do know a couple of friends that they basically got a press release and a slot on their website. So it didn't seem to do much. They kind of have to do all their marketing. I did notice that some of my friends who have been published by boutique publishing companies, they get a lot more attention. They go on tour, they do signings, they do events. Maybe if you definitely have decided I want to go the traditional route, then maybe instead of going for the big 6, maybe you should go for a smaller boutique publishing company. Better editing? Not really. I see typos in traditionally published books all the time. Here are some examples. And I'm very sorry, Brandon Sanderson, but I've been reading you a lot lately, and so I just happen to notice all the typos in your books. But I love everything you've ever written. Traditional publishing never gets grief for this, but indie publishers do all the time. You have to be more than perfect. Double standard? Yes. So my advice is to hire at least 2 professional editors to edit your book. Can't get into Barnes & Noble? Not really. Barnes & Noble has figured out that indie publishing is here to stay. You can go now to the link I put below and submit your book for them to carry it in their stores. I pretty much make all my money from ebooks, so I haven't submitted yet, but maybe I'll do that in a future video and we can all take that adventure together. Reason number 3, getting your story out there. You're a writer. Your mission in life is to tell stories. I hate to say it, but being traditionally published is kind of like the lottery. Talent is definitely a part of it, but not really a huge part of it. Nepotism and luck play a big hand in who gets published. So take your destiny into your own hands. You have a story to tell. Tell it. Make sure you listen to your beta readers and your editors though. Ultimately, the story is yours to tell, and you get to make all the calls in the end. I was a little scared at first, but it was the best decision I ever made. It took a lot of work figuring things out along the way. Marketing, book fairs, book signings, online marketing, Facebook ads, you name it, I've done it. But eventually it all paid off, and now I can say I make my living as a writer. Everyone has to make the decision that works best for them, but I am a big believer in just jumping into your dreams and going for it. So if you want to publish a novel, do it. There are tons of resources online that will give you sage advice on how to publish your novel. The point is that if you have a story that you want to share, you should share it. Don't wait for someone to validate you. If you're excited about your book, others will be too. Okay, that is just my opinion and my experience. But if you have any questions for me, just put them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer anything. Thank you so much for watching. Keep creating and happy writing.